Hi Guys Meurex recap here. Today I am going to explain a best horror thriller movie. Livid spoiler is the ahead, watch out and take care. So let's begin. Film start with a youthful woman sitting at a machine stop. Her name was Lucy, and there were some film land of missing children hard. Meanwhile, a lady arrives in an auto and reveals herself to be Lucy's schoolteacher. Lucy, in fact, is a nanny on an externship with her schoolteacher. Moment is her first day, and as she's leaving, the schoolteacher notices Lucy's new eye color. She inquires of Lucy, who responds, "Yes, I went to the croaker and this is a medical condition." It's normal, but the schoolteacher believes that if a person has two different multicolored eyes, he or she has another soul. Or two souls can come into that person's body. They reach their first case while talking, and the schoolteacher tells Lucy there are numerous cases who cannot walk. That is why I used to visit their house, and I do have a key to their house. Lucy sees a manly case when she moves outside, but he cannot walk, but the case was spooked of the injection and Lucy makes him believe to be relaxed and the injection will be effortless. I'll fit this injection calmly. The case becomes emotional after the injection and tells her about his son. They were getting late and they've to leave. After it, they go for the treatment of their coming case and also went to their last case's home. Her name was Deborah and her house was on the way to the timber. Reaching there, the schoolteacher says to Lucy, "This case Deborah is special, so stay then, and I will go outside," and also she goes outside with her drug bag. Lucy could not stop herself after staying for a long time outdoors and move outside. Lucy finds the house strange because there were beast statues and film land on its wall. Latterly, she comes upstairs while following the voice of her teacher. The schoolteacher says, "While seeing Lucy you feel so interested to learn this job, and this is a good thing." The schoolteacher tells Lucy this case Deborah was a notorious cotillion schoolteacher. And the kiddies indeed from a far distance come then for learning cotillion. Lucy opens a window while seeing the darkness in the room. Meanwhile, Lucy sees numerous books there. Lucy chooses a book as the schoolteacher said with unrestricted eyes. A butterfly appears from the book as Lucy opens it. Latterly, Lucy places it again without reading it and also comes to Deborah. She sees a key in her neck. Meanwhile, Lucy sees the schoolteacher is changing Deborah's blood. She was edging in her new blood. The schoolteacher tells Lucy that she does not understand why Deborah's blood requirements to be changed so constantly. "I'm not a croaker, and I do my job as I was assigned." Now the schoolteacher starts telling intriguing data about Deborah as she has a son who cannot speak since her non-age. Deborah is a rich lady, and it's said there's treasure hidden in this house. Indeed, I tried numerous times to find out the treasure, but I did not find any treasure then. Also they leave for home after changing her blood. The schoolteacher drops Lucy on a harborage of there was her friend, and she goes to meet him. The schoolteacher kidnaps a girl while leaving, and we will know latterly why the schoolteacher has done this. Lucy meets her friend who actually does a job on the boat. Latterly, they go into a bar and move out from there. Lucy's family and father also do a job there, and they sit at a table. Lucy's friend asks her how was her first day at her job. Lucy says it was fine, but there are numerous cases who cannot walk or talk. And you flash back the vacated house where that old lady lives. Moment I went inside it. My schoolteacher was telling me there's treasure hidden in that house. I do not know whether it's true or not, and also Lucy's family arrives and he has brought beer for them. Lucy's friend becomes agitated to hear about treasure. He says we should find out the treasure because now I'm fed up and do not want to do a job for my whole life on the boat. Lucy becomes angry to hear about the thievery and comes out of the bar. Her friend comes behind her and tries to make her understand while saying, "Lucy, try to understand your fiscal condition is also not so good. Your father also needs plutocrat, so you should suppose about it calmly, and you should surely suppose about it." Latterly, Lucy comes home and the scene shifts to Lucy's schoolteacher. She was taking out that girl's blood whom she abducted on the way. She was taking out this blood for none other than Deborah. That means the kiddies who are missing in the megacity are abducted by the schoolteacher. Lucy sees her father who was talking to a lady on the phone. Then Lucy makes him understand how bad it is. "Just a many months past my mama's death, and you're doing this kind of act." Her father has decided and says the lady I'm talking to is a good mortal and she'll come to meet us the coming week. Lucy was sitting there being sad and sees a vision of her mama. Lucy calls her friend at night and says, "I'm ready to do a thievery in Deborah's house." Lucy, her friend, and her family match after a many days, and Lucy's family comes then in his auto. Latterly, They move to the timber. While sitting in the car, Lucy's apostrophe friend asks her family to stop the auto at a distance from Deborah's apostrophe house, so there won't be any noise produced, and they do the same. They stop their auto at a distance at Deborah's apostrophe house, and Lucy takes them into her house, but the main gate of the house was closed. They move inside. While reaching there, they did not find any door open when they try to move outside. It was late at night, so Lucy and her family asked to go home. Lucy's apostrophe friend does not agree and finds a window open in the basement after chancing a lot. They move outside and find numerous old effects there and numerous spider webs. It means none come then for times after it. They move to the ground bottom through the stairs. Latterly, Lucy's apostrophe friend asks them to find out the treasure. During this, Lucy's apostrophe family gets spooked to see a toy beast. As he moves away being spooked, the jar also falls from him. Lucy's apostrophe friend asks them to move upstairs when they do not find anything, and they come to the first bottom. Deborah's apostrophe room was on the top bottom, and they come into a room. There were numerous toys. Seeing it, Lucy's apostrophe family considers it a baby's room. Lucy tells her family about Deborah's apostrophe son. Meanwhile, Lucy's apostrophe friend calls them inside the hall. The creature's toys were sitting on the dining table, and Lucy's apostrophe family asks why this house isn't like others. Why does this is looking so strange? It's egregious. None has its answer, and moving forward, they find a locked door. Lucy's apostrophe friend becomes happy and claims that the treasure will be in it. He says this is the reason that the room is locked. Then Lucy remembers the crucial hanging from Deborah's neck. She tells her friend about it, and they went upstairs into Deborah's apostrophe room. Deborah was laying on her bed as usual, and Lucy comes to her sluggishly. Also, she takes out the key from her neck. Lucy Musketeers open the door when they come back, but the key was not fixed in the cinch, so her friend breaks the door. They only have this way to move outside and find a statue there. It was covered with a cloth, and removing the cloth they discover it was a girl, not a statue. Lucy considers perhaps this girl is a treasure for Deborah. She thinks perhaps she's her son, and also Lucy sees a box strike. There was a keyhole in it. When Lucy moves the crucial inside it, the girl starts moving. Music also starts playing in the house. As the music plays, Lucy's apostrophe friend hits the girl. Due to it, the music stops suddenly. They hear someone running while they were agitating it. Lucy's friend realizes that they may be in peril, so we've to leave soon from then. They return to the basement so they can move out through the window. The window was not open, but there were iron cables. Then Lucy remembers there's a window in Deborah's apostrophe room through which they can move out. They move to Deborah's apostrophe room, but get shocked to see that she was not in the room. They do not waste their time in the hurry of moving out of there. Lucy and her friend were opening the window, but seeing the effects there, Lucy's apostrophe family sees Deborah's apostrophe vision in the glass. After it, he finds himself in an empty room. Meanwhile, Lucy and her friend do not find her family with them. They come downward to find him on another side. Lucy's apostrophe family finds himself in an operation theater when he turns the lights on. There were numerous machines and jars in which there were dead creatures. Meanwhile, he hears someone's voice, and he gets spooked and picks up a rod hard, but suddenly many girls arrive. They were the girls whom Deborah teaches cotillion. Then they beat Lucy's apostrophe family indeed, though they end him. During this, Lucy's apostrophe family shouts, and Lucy come then along with her friend hearing his voice. Reaching then, Lucy's apostrophe friend starts breaking the door from where the voices were coming. Lucy finds a note from a book that was placed there and discovers about Deborah's apostrophe son from it. Lucy suspects the effects are connected to Deborah's apostrophe son. Due to it, they find her body. Also, they come to the dining hall from that toy room, the place where the beast toys were sitting. Meanwhile, Lucy searches one of the cupboards and discovers a blood-splashed dress. Also, the toys turn their face to Lucy. Then we see Deborah sitting on a president. She incontinently controls Lucy. Also, Lucy sits in front of her and puts her hands in her hands. After it, Lucy sees a flashback, and it was the time when Deborah teaches cotillion to girls. One day, Deborah notices one of the girls was not dancing duly. Due to it, Deborah scolds her and throws her out from there. Deborah's apostrophe son takes the girl with her while calling her when she was collecting her effects. Meanwhile, Deborah hears the girl's crying voice, so she skips the cotillion class and goes to her son's room to see what is going on. Deborah sees her son was stinking that girl's blood. Reaching them, she makes her son understand to do this with non-natives. Else, we will be caught if someone will suspect us. Then we discover actually Deborah and her family are vultures. Getting angry with it, Deborah's son moves into the sun and she starts flying in the air, but her skin was burning. Deborah moves there incontinently and saves her. Meanwhile, Lucy awakes. Lucy's friend hears someone's voice when he was breaking the door, and when he moves forward to check, Lucy's family was standing there. He'd blood on his clothes and had covered his face with a cloth. Lucy's family attacks him as her friend moves to remove the cloth from his face. Also, he starts beating him because he has now come a shark. Lucy comes downward hearing the crying voice of her friend, but the door of the room gets locked automatically. On another side, Lucy's friend has to end her family in his defense. Lucy's friend weeps after ending him because he did not want to end him. Deborah arrives during this, and before Lucy's friend can do anything, she ends him and sucks his blood. As he dies, the door opens where Lucy was locked, but she was coming to her friend downward. Meanwhile, she sees Deborah coming upstairs and runs back to the room in which there was the body of Deborah's son. Lucy notices that Deborah's son's nose is bleeding, indicating that she's still alive. Then Lucy again sees a flashback and sees Deborah behaves poorly with her son. One day, while tutoring her cotillion, she breaks the backbone of her son. Lucy took pity on Deborah's son seeing it, and she asks, "Are you alive? Can you hear me?" Suddenly Deborah's son attacks Lucy, but she makes her faint while beating her during the fight. Also, Lucy's schoolteacher arrives and makes Lucy faint while beating her. Lucy finds herself on a stretcher in the operation theater when she awakes. Then we discover Lucy's schoolteacher is also one of Deborah's scholars. She was present there when her son's bone was broken. It is shown in the present that Deborah brings her son into the operation room. She first places her cutlet in Lucy's belly, also in her son's neck. After doing this, Deborah starts performing a ritual. Latterly, a butterfly is transferred from Lucy's mouth to Deborah's son's mouth. With it, their souls also change after it. The schoolteacher brings Deborah's son in front, who's now in Lucy's body. Deborah's son was looking in the glass and seeing her new body, but again Deborah asks her son to dance forcefully. Getting bothered with it, her son ends Deborah and latterly ends her schoolteacher as well. Latterly, she awakes Lucy and opens her eyes to bring her to her senses. Those were actually darned by Deborah. Deborah is shown still alive and attacks them, but this time Deborah's son ends her while pushing her from the stairs. The coming day, Deborah's son and Lucy go to a gemstone near the reinforcement of the sluice reaching. Then Lucy removes the mask. Now because she was in a shark's body, so she starts flying and her body starts melting. She was burning gradationally and Deborah's son becomes happy to her because Deborah Noe gives freedom to her body. Her body was completely free today. This movie is end here. Thanks for watching this video.